We're all taught one simple rule for solving pretty much any problem. Just push harder. But what if that's the absolute worst advice you could possibly follow? Today, we're going to dig into the huge difference between productive effort and destructive force and figure out when the most powerful move you can make is to just let go. You see this everywhere, right? In our careers, our goals, even in our relationships. It's kind of the default setting for getting through obstacles. If a door's stuck, the answer is just to shove it with your full body weight. Seems simple, but is it really working for us? But let's pause for a second. What if that advice is actually causing more harm than good? What if all that resistance isn't a sign to push harder, but a giant flashing signal that we're pushing on the wrong door entirely? Let's explore that. So this brings us to a totally different philosophy, one that's all about alignment over just sheer willpower. It's a perspective that suggests maybe the universe isn't something you have to constantly fight against, but something you can actually work with. This is the core belief right here. And listen, this isn't about being passive and just waiting for things to fall in your lap. Not at all. It's about recognizing that when you're on the right path, your effort creates its own natural momentum. You don't have to force what's truly meant for you. And that brings us to the heart of it all, the real distinction between healthy, productive effort and that draining, destructive force. They might look kind of similar from the outside, but trust me, on the inside, they feel completely different. Just look at how this breaks down. It's all about the feeling behind what you're doing. Effort feels aligned. It's a kind of productive pressure that actually creates forward movement. Force, on the other hand, is just met with constant resistance. It's a destructive kind of stress that only ever leads to frustration. Okay, to make this crystal clear, let's use a really simple but powerful analogy: the key and the door. And you can apply this to pretty much any situation in your life. Think about it. The right key doesn't need to be forced. Sure, it might need a little jiggle, that's what we call effort, but it doesn't need a sledgehammer. It's literally designed to work. Real alignment feels less like you're breaking down a wall and more like you're just finding that perfect, satisfying fit. So the big question is, how do we spot this in our own lives? Let's look at two of the most common places where we mix up effort and force: our relationships and our careers. Okay, think about a relationship, friendship, romance, whatever. If you're the only one calling, the only one making plans, you're not in a partnership. You're just chasing. When there's true alignment, the give and take, that reciprocity, it feels natural. You shouldn't have to fight just to get a text back. And it's the exact same thing in business. Of course, a good deal takes hard work. But if every single step feels like you're walking through quicksand and every conversation just adds more confusion instead of clarity, that is a huge red flag. Remember, productive effort creates progress. Force just creates more and more resistance. So this leads to the million-dollar question, right? If we see these signs of misalignment, the frustration, the anxiety, why is it so unbelievably hard to just walk away? Well, the answer lies in a really powerful psychological trap. The reason we stay is, well, it's because we're invested. We're in deep, not just emotionally, but with our time, our money, our energy. And this leads us straight into something called the sunk cost fallacy. To put it simply, this is that little voice in your brain screaming, "Hey, you've already put so much into this. You can't quit now. You'll lose everything you've invested." It's the same logic that keeps people pouring money into a failing business or staying in a toxic relationship, just hoping they can somehow get their initial investment back. And these are the big ones, the investments that really trap us. Years of our time, our hard-earned money, our emotional energy, and that incredibly powerful glue of a shared history. These are the sunk costs that make walking away feel like a massive personal failure. But here's the cold, hard truth. Staying doesn't get your investment back. It just guarantees you're going to lose more time, more money, more of your own well-being. You're just digging the hole deeper. So if our own logic can trap us like that, what can we actually trust? Well, you can trust the feeling. Let's talk about the difference between how alignment and misalignment actually feel in your body. This is your internal compass, and honestly, it's often way more accurate than any pros and cons list. Look at this. Aligned effort feels purposeful. Yeah, you might be tired at the end of the day, but you're not depleted. You feel challenged, but you don't feel diminished. Misaligned force is the complete opposite. It leaves you feeling drained, anxious, and small. It makes you question your own worth, not just your methods. And once you really get this, it reframes the whole conversation. Suddenly, letting go isn't quitting. It isn't failing. In so many cases, it is the most disciplined, mature, and honestly the most powerful decision you can possibly make.
It really boils down to this. When you recognize that something is misaligned early on and you choose to walk away, that's an act of discipline. But when you wait until you're completely burned out and drained, letting go isn't a choice anymore. It's just damage control.
If you're ever feeling stuck, I want you to ask yourself this one simple question. Am I actually building something here, or am I just trying to prove something? Is my energy creating something real and valuable, or is it all just about proving that I'm not a quitter? The answer reveals everything. And maybe we all just need to make peace with this idea. Chasing after something that is so clearly moving away from you isn't admirable. It's just exhausting. Accepting that some opportunities, some deals, and some people are not meant for you. That is a profound form of liberation. Ultimately, the real test is this. Does this pursuit make you feel more like yourself or less? A true calling, a real alignment, it will stretch you for sure, but it will never, ever ask you to sacrifice your core self just to hold on to it. And recognizing that, well, that's the difference that changes everything.